All right, welcome back to Big B Sports Talk. This is Brian Hanley again, and we are talking U of L basketball today. Obviously, it's a pet project of mine. I'm a diehard U of L fan. I got my man Bryant Northern, former U of L basketball player, with us today. Let's talk about this disaster that has been U of L basketball. So, Bryant,
Yes.
obviously, U of L, this season has been a disaster. It just flat out a disaster. I've been watching U of L or basketball since I can remember. I'm 47 years old. I've never seen a season like this. I've never seen a struggle like this. I've seen us had bad teams. I've never seen the basketball just be this bad, man. Tell me what you think about U of L this season as a whole right now.
Well, just to kind of share with the audience a little bit, I was on one of the worst U of L teams at the state. My freshman year, that was the year they pushed Coach Crum out. We were 12 and 19. So we got beat by 20 by everybody. St. Louis blew us out. Utah, Oregon. Everybody was mopping the floor with us, and it was embarrassing. And I know some of what it's like, what these guys are going through. Now, it wasn't to the extent of people are predicting this team will win 2 or 3 games, but I was on a 12 and 19 team, man, and it was really, really rough. But I've never seen anything like this. And this team could easily have 4, 5, maybe 6 wins right now, and they don't. And I do think they'll get to 5 wins, maybe 6. I just think there'll be another game where Mike James or El Ellis is hitting shots and things are falling, and they'll
Right.
catch and sneak up on somebody, especially
Right.
maybe at home. But I think what you see here is just a lot of guys who probably really don't belong in the ACC or at this level, and it just kind of shows you the parity in college sports. Other teams are getting better. Some of the elite teams, like a Kentucky, IU, or U of L, who are blue bloods, aren't there anymore. But this team is fundamentally a disaster.
Yeah.
There's a lack of passion, and they're starting to get some of that passion. They're playing more competitive. They're showing some fight. But early on, it just really looked like a group that just hadn't practiced and had no continuity.
I think a lot of the same things, man. Here's the thing. I think fans are, I shouldn't say all fans because I don't want to generalize everybody, but I think a lot of fans, first of all, everybody's frustrated. Everybody is absolutely frustrated because there is some talent on the team. Now, not a lot. It's just what you mentioned. There's not a lot of guys that should be playing at this level. But I think the big thing is we do not have a point guard on the basketball team that is capable of playing high Division One basketball or Division One basketball. Period. El Ellis is doing the best that he can, but he's not a point guard. He makes some of the dumbest turnovers that I've ever really seen. I don't see high school point guards making these kinds of turnovers. There's times where he's just dribbling out front and loses the ball. The problem before, in my opinion, was is that, and it's been cleaned up a little bit here the last couple games, is that it's the live ball turnovers that turn into baskets. The live
Mm.
ball turnovers that we're not getting back. We're showing no fight. Guys will get an open dunk, an open layup, an open three. It's just been these live ball turnovers where he drives all the way in, and not just him. I don't want to just single him out. It's just everybody just making these live ball turnovers where there's nobody back, and it's just killing them because they don't shoot the ball well enough to overcome those turnovers, and it's just a problem, man. It's just a problem.
In the beginning of the season, El Ellis was my favorite player. He was my guy to watch. I liked him last year, and I thought, man, I'm really excited about who he's going to become. He is now my least favorite player. I don't like his body language. I don't like his attitude. I don't like how he interacts with his teammates. I don't like his shot selection. You can see where he's trying to be this like Russ Smith guy, where he puts the team on his shoulders and do these ridiculous plays and makes something out of nothing, but it's not there. Has he had a good game or two? Yeah, but the bad has outweighed the good.
Yeah.
And what happens is when you occupy the ball as much as he occupies the ball, probably 16 seconds and a shot clock. The ball is in his hands. You're going to make mistakes. When John Wall was a freshman at Kentucky, he led the SEC in assists. He also led it in turnovers because the ball was in his hands so much.
Right.
Look at look at Russell Westbrook. Look at Rajon Rondo. When they led the NBA in assists, and they were top 2 or 3 in assists, they also led the league in turnovers. So what you see is when you occupy the ball a lot and take more chances, you will have more turnovers. Now, in their defense, they would have a 2 to 3 to 1 ratio. They would average
Absolutely.
9 assists and 3 turnovers, which is still fine
Absolutely.
because you're at 3 to 1. That's not L. Ellis. So
No.
he's over occupying the ball. He's forcing shots. He's making plays that he shouldn't try to make. And he's become this score first, score second, score third guy, and I only pass if I have to. And that's not a good Bob, and you can't have that as a point guard. The Fabio kid, I thought was going to be this point guard who could come in and make plays, but obviously it doesn't seem like he's developing or even having an opportunity to do that role.
Right.
So they're playing with what they have. They're just playing with 5 guys on the floor, and the roles are starting to seem like they're coming into place. But early on, I don't think they had any idea who was going to do what.
Well, and I think part of that, because here's the fan debate: is it the players or is it Kenny Payne? And I don't think it's that difficult. Clearly, it's both. You
It's
know,
both.
Kenny Payne is learning that there's a huge difference between being an assistant and a head coach. He's going through some of those head coaching, those first time head coaching growing pains that everybody goes through. He's going through that without question. There's no doubt about it. Because those first 3 games, we should have won at least 2 of those. 2 of those
Absolutely.
games, coaching should have got us home. I go, but it didn't. And so then we sat 0-3. Then it just snowballed from there. But even after the fact, there's still some growing pains that are going on. But also another aspect of that is us not having a point guard on the roster. Look, it's college. 60% is getting the guys there. That's your job as a coach. 60% of it is recruiting. And if you didn't get a point guard on your team, that is your fault. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think that's where a lot of the fans get frustrated, myself included, is like, look, your job is to get somebody there, man. You didn't get a point guard. You knew what you had. You knew it. You could have went in the portal and you could have got some. I get that he swung for the fences and missed. That doesn't mean you couldn't have got somebody from anywhere. Louisville has gotten transfer portal point guards from lower tier Division 1 colleges. What, the last 3-4 years? Every single season, and for the most part, it's
They've all
worked out.
done
At
well.
least you
They've all
had
done well.
somebody,
Right.
and it's just not to not have one is unfathomable that the University of Louisville doesn't have a point guard on their team, man.
I think the staff and the players are both at fault, and I do believe that the staff has failed them some. Now, this is not elite talent. This is not guys who you thought would win 20 games, right? We
Right.
knew that this team was in trouble.
Sure.
My problem is a team takes on the identity of a coach. My best example is look at Cincinnati under Bob Huggins. They was the nastiest team in college basketball.
Right.
Those guys were mean, nasty. You weren't afraid of them, but they were kind of the bullies on the block. They were the Detroit bad boys of college basketball.
Right.
And if you really knew who Bob Huggins was, he was kind of a rough and tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think ultimately, when you look at some of the Patino teams, Patino's a fiery competitor. He's got that Italian Bob. He'll fight you. And his
Mm-hmm.
teams would come back. They were never out of a game. And I think ultimately, Coach Payne is a great human being. He's a nice guy. He's always smiling. He's always polite. He's this big teddy bear. And then I think what you saw with the team was they were too nice. Where's the fight? We're jogging back on defense. We don't seem to have this passion, this you got to run us over to beat us. It wasn't there.
Yes.
And I think as they are getting better, we're seeing some improvement. The players take on the personality of the head coach. And I think whether it be the assistant coaches or the head coaches, the coaching staff I think has to be tougher on these guys. They gotta yell. They gotta be intense. The guys have to look. If you can't cut it, then leave. We'll bring in someone else. You got to
Right.
sometimes talk to those young men like that because that's what resonates. We were afraid of Patino. You can ask the former players and the coaches. We were intimidated and afraid of Coach Patino,
Right.
and we played with this sense of urgency, like my ass is gone. Excuse my language. If I can't
You're
cut it,
good.
and these guys, that's not there. And I think this comes from, when I watch him do interviews, he uses the word love a lot. You gotta love in these guys. You gotta love and love. And it's so much love and it's so much kumbaya. Eventually I'm just like, Coach, light a fire in their butt. Like, Let's get
Yeah.
them going. Let's stop with all the love stuff and tell these guys they got to perform or they're gone. Like, let's give them some tough love, real serious, real fast. And I feel bad for him because now you're a former U of L guy. We're rooting for you. We want to see you do well. But the performance of the players, it's reflecting on you, it's reflecting on them. And I don't think this is what anybody expected it to be.
No, nobody expected it to be this. We knew they would struggle. They knew they weren't going to be as good, but nobody thought it was going to be this way. Look, everybody, I think, loved the hire. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. For the most part, most people liked the hire.
I love the
Um,
hire. I was one of the people who was on board. I was excited. I pumped my fist in the air. I was excited about this hire.
Well, and it was the smart hire as well. You know, the guy had a proven track record of being an outstanding recruiter. Look, U of L had
Mhm.
those sanctions, man. That hurt. Now, look, I know everybody wants to say, well, I thought he was going to bring in 5 stars. Well, when Chris Mack at his exit interview, not when he got fired or left the job, whatever you want to say, last year at the end of the season, he said it was a mess. We're recruiting into a mess. It's a problem. He said it. So we knew that it was a problem that Louisville was being recruited negatively against. Kenny Payne came out and said it too. Once those sanctions went away, now it's going to be the next cycle. Well, I know what people will say. Well, the sanctions went away. Well, the sanctions went away after the signing period was over this year, man. So it's like you got to give him another opportunity to get back out there because look, people were saying Louisville's going to be on the death penalty. And why would you go there? They're not even going to be playing basketball, much less being in the tournament. Why would you go to Louisville? That's tough to recruit against. And I know people were saying it. I heard it. You heard it. Everybody heard it. And nobody knew. All for it to come out to actually be nothing, which
I
was
don't think it hurt
ridiculous.
them as bad as what people think.
You
If
don't
it
think
hurt
it
them
did?
so bad, no, because we got Kamari Lands, we had the Huntley Hatfield kid. If it was so bad, why did they come? If it was
Well, I
so
mean,
bad, why did more guys leave? I
I
think
you can say that, but at the same time, we didn't get the kind of caliber kid. Look, I like Kamari Lands, but let's just be honest, and I think all fans can agree with this. He can't even dribble the ball with his left hand.
I mean,
So
on paper, he was what, top 60, top 70 in the country. He made
exactly on
sense.
paper,
On
that's
paper,
right.
he made sense. So I think ultimately, I don't think that hurt us as bad as what people thought. Here's what I think hurts us more: when you do an interview and you say, "I don't want kids to come here for NIL." I keep hearing coaches say, "Oh, NIL shouldn't be the number one
He's
deal.
got to
People
dive
need to."
into it.
Hey, you guys got to adjust.
Yes,
Everyone who took a job, so all adults, we're working, right? Most of us are working. You are looking at pay. How much do I make for my time?
correct.
Is the pay worth it? Now that college basketball is allowing the players to have be a part of the business side, the players are going to make business decisions.
Yep,
You're going to start see top players go to a Memphis or a school that's maybe unranked because there's money involved, and they say,
correct.
hey, maybe I won't be top 25, maybe we won't play on TV, but I want to make a substantial amount of money. I'm making a business decision. And coaches have to get with that. The narrative of, oh, they should just want to come here and play here because it's U of L or because it's Duke or because it's this, that's got to change.
Bryant,
It's we
we
provide something that is better than these other schools. You are going to get here and get an education. You're going to get better in basketball and you're going to make a lot of money because these high elite
yes.
recruits want to get paid.
Just look at the football recruiting class for this year. Getting all those kids from California. You think they came from California to Louisville just out of the kindness of their heart to
No.
play for Scott Satterfield? Come on, man. No, no, no. And I get it that Brom got the job, but Satterfield is the one who got them committed. You think they came here because they just wanted to play for Satterfield? Absolutely not. NIL had a huge difference in it. Kenny Payne's got to get on board with it, man. You couldn't have said it any better. It's not going away. You
Mhm.
can't put the genie back in the bottle. They may tweak it, which they should tweak it. That's a conversation for another day. But at the bottom line is he's got to embrace it because it's here. It's going to affect recruiting. If you don't get involved, you're not going to get the kind of guys that you think that you can get. Embrace it. And look, we're Louisville. We got a ton of money. Use it. Use it to your advantage. I just don't understand that, man. If you can explain why he won't, you're a better man than me because I can't understand. And maybe he's just saying that out loud, but I don't think KP is a liar. So for me, I don't think he puts on a front. So I think what he says to the public a lot of times is what he really thinks. And to me, not embracing NIL, look, you don't have to just come outwardly and say, hey, we're just throwing all this money around. Just don't say anything. If that's the case, just don't say anything,
Well, don't push
or
kids
just say
away.
take.
Don't make a comment that makes kids say, you know what, he's not about the money. He's not about.
Yes,
So don't
yes,
steer people away. I'd rather him have said nothing than him
nothing.
say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess the better question is, and I know this is the $1 million question that people want to know: is KP the right fit?
Man, I want to tread lightly here because I'm still I'm still a believer in you don't bring someone in for 15, 20 games and
Exactly.
say they're done.
Right.
But someone proposed a scenario to me and said if I took my car to a mechanic shop and said I want my oil changed and they took my tires off, I don't need to do anything else or see anything else and know, okay, I took my car to the wrong place. Put my tires back on. I just asked for oil change. What are you doing? This has appeared to be something along those lines. What are you doing? Yes, we didn't have elite talent. Yes, we don't have this, but we don't beat Wright State. We can't beat App State. Bellarmine looked like they were going to do really, really well. Now they've lost to Evansville. They lost to some other teams. They maybe so now the Bellarmine loss isn't even really
Not a good
an
one.
explainable. It's not even a good loss anymore.
Nope.
I don't know if they're going to win their conference. They've been struggling. Wright State turned around and got blew out a game or two later after they beat us.
Yep.
So now I'm looking back and I'm like, dude, I don't know if this is the right fit. I I'm still rooting for Coach Payne. I'm still rooting for this scenario to somehow work out and he turned this around and we all look back and be like, well, it was rough in the beginning. But at some point in time, we have to hit a panic button. I think we hit it earlier. They won a game or two. We saw them fight back against Wake. How do you finish the end of the season? Because at this point, I watched the game not long ago, and it looked like there were 3,000 people in the Yum, and that's
Right.
not going to cut it. You
No.
can't. That arena holds 18 to 20,000 people. They're going to have to pack that arena. They have to pay for salaries. They have to pay bills, and they can't do that with 3,000 people in the Yum Center. So if something doesn't change, then the answer is no. I don't know if you give this 3 years. I
Well,
think ultimately, if you give, let's say they give him one more year, he's got to win 10 or 12 games, maybe even 14. He can't win 5 games this year and come back the following year with a 10-win season. He Patino went Patino's sophomore year, or my sophomore year, Coach Patino's first year. We went from 12-19 with Coach Crum to 19-12 with Patino, and then the following year we were 25-7. I believe you have to make a substantial jump in a year or two. So I think, let's say
absolutely.
this year he wins 5 games, he would need to win 12 to 15 the second year to
Yeah.
get that third year. And I don't think that's unreasonable. Let's say he won 10 games this year. I think we'd be okay with that. I think if this team got to 10 or 12 wins, we would all be like, under the circumstances, that's okay. But the problem is we lost games that we should have won. And the writing, it didn't look great when we lost to that D2 team, Lenore Ryan. And I
Right.
think we were all like, okay, was this a fluke or are we really that bad? And we learned later we're really that bad.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him get a second year, but he would have to perform before I would say, okay, coach, you get a third year. And that's just me being a fan. You know,
Right.
as a fan, I want to be relevant. I want to be ranked. I want to win. And
Absolutely.
the allure of Coach Payne is five star NBA guys, one and
That's
done.
right.
Could Louisville become an NBA factory like what they were at Kentucky? Could we be the next thing in college
Right.
basketball where we compete with Duke and Kansas and Kentucky for recruits, and we're now top 10 every year, and we're recruiting the top elite players. And when we didn't get DeJuan Wagner Jr., I kind of started thinking, okay, where is this really going? We're losing. We're not landing top recruits. What's next?
Right. Well, the one thing that I can say, I love that car analogy. The only problem with it is that when you take your car to get your oil change, you don't get your money back.
Mm,
Or you can get your money back. With Kenny Payne, we're not going to be able to get our money back. So he's not getting fired after this season. Let's just put that out there. I know fans want to say that he's not going to cut. He's not getting fired this year. That isn't going to happen. Now, after year two, if you just like you said again, we come around with a an 8 and 10 win season with better players, that's a problem. But number one, I don't think that it's going to be as bad. The reason I say that, Brian, I think we've hit rock bottom. I know that there's a lot of things that we have hit rock bottom. We're there. We are literally there. We don't have a good team. We're losing games. Nobody goes to the games. What else is there? I mean, literally, if you just sit back and take a look at it, how bad can it be? Well, we're not winning. Nobody goes, and we don't have good players. That's the epitome of where the program is, and it's kind of what I've been telling everybody all along, and a lot of people agree with it. The NCAA did their job. They did what they wanted to do to the University of Louisville without having to come down with a punishment of, probation for 5 years or death penalty or whatever. They literally did to Louisville what they wanted to do and made the program irrelevant. Now, how quick we can flip that around, that's going to be on Kenny Payne and the staff to figure that out and to get the
Well,
guys
we're
in
seeing
here.
out there that other people can do it. Missouri's first
Yes.
year head coach made them ranked. Coach Willard at
Yes.
Maryland came in strong. Coach Woodson's first year at IU, they had to scramble late to do it, but they made the tournament.
I don't think they were
And
that bad, though, Brian. I don't think those programs were as bad as where Louisville was. Now, I know
we
there's
won 12 or
coaches.
13 games last year, though, right?
Right. We did,
I didn't
but
expect
we
us
don't
to
have a
go
point guard.
backwards,
We don't have a point guard. I mean,
but
I know
that's
people
on the
want to
staff's
say
fault.
that our roster isn't full of good basketball players. It just isn't. Now, again, it's coaching. And part of coaching is recruiting. I get it. That's his fault. But those other coaches, and you're right, teams scrambled. They scrambled to get to get better quickly. And I'm not saying that Louisville can't. They should be able to. I mean, again, it's Louisville.
Then we should
You can get
with that
guys.
theory. Then we should be relevant next year. We should be
Yeah.
a double figure win season because with the
Yes.
portal and with recruiting, we can turn it around in one season.
No excuses.
So
Absolutely no
that's fair.
excuses.
Let's give Coach Payne 1 year and let's say, hey, make something happen this summer. Give us that reassurance that hey, we made the right hire and that you're the future of this program, and get
Yes.
us in some players and let's see what you guys can really do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the thing is, I personally think they're going to give him 3 years. They'll do that. There'll be some outside pressure to keep him for 3 years no matter what. But for me to stay on board, just what you said, I need to see a huge leap because I think the roster is bad. I think the coaching has been bad. And I think there's things that we can do this summer to get our entire program better to make the type of leap. I'm not saying we got to win 30 games, but I do believe that we can win 14, 15 games. All those preseason games, those money games is what they're called. We should win all of those. We should
Can
win
we
all of
dive
those
in?
games.
Let's dive in a little bit to what you said. The pressure.
Sure.
Where is the pressure coming from? You said there is pressure to keep him. Let's dissect that a little bit.
Okay.
Where is the pressure to keep him?
There'll be
Let's
the
talk
outside
about that.
pressure because he's a black head coach. Let's just call it what it is. They're not going to want to
Mhm.
fire a black head coach after 1 or 2 years. There'll be outside pressure. Whether it's legitimate or not, there'll be that pressure. Look,
And
you know
he's
me.
alumni.
That's right. Alumni, there'll be the pressure to keep them. I mean, that's where it'll come from. But you know me, I don't give a damn. If you can coach and you're yellow, if you coach my University of Louisville and we can win a national title, I don't care. I literally don't care. But that'll be a problem. It will be pressure, and then so that'll be one thing that will keep him in the job longer if he hasn't earned it. You know what I'm saying? Now, if he's earned it, it is
Mhm.
what it is. Great, let's move and let's kill this thing. But if he
I
hasn't earned
think
it and we suck, that'll be something that comes into play.
I think he has some things working in his favor. So in the circle talk of former players, everyone says he's one of us. And what that means is, yes, he's not only African American, but he's played at the university.
Sure.
Treat him with care. Don't say this on social media. Don't talk bad about him publicly. Give him a chance. So I think if he was a different person, the rhetoric, the narrative out there would be a lot different. I think a lot of people have refrained from saying things or
Absolutely.
demanded more because he's one of us. So at
Absolutely.
what point does that wear off and we just have to say this isn't working? And is that year two or is that year three? But he has some things working for him. There are alumni and some powerful alumni who want to see him do well and
Sure.
who would pressure the administration to give him his fair shot, give him a 2 or 3 year deal. Now, my question is, let's say the season ends and he's won 4 games. Does he want to come back? Is this become a thing where he's tired of the media storm? He's tired of all the hearsay. his family. I mean, they all have ESPN. They all get newspapers. They all have the internet. You see, a lot of people don't realize Coach Mack was struggling with that at the end. His kids were
Yeah.
getting bullied at school, and his wife, was hearing stuff and seeing stuff online. And when you love someone and that's your family, you don't want to see that. I mean, Russell
Right.
Westbrook has complained about bringing his kids to games because they call him Westbrook, and
Right.
his kids are saying, "Why are they calling Daddy Westbrook?" And I think what happens is, at some point, he has to decide, okay, is this for me? I could go back to New York and make a decent living with no pressure being on the Knicks, or I could do this or this. I mean, someone would take him in another position as an assistant coach, and he could go make $300,000 a year and not have this scrutinization. So I'm also wondering, does he want to stick with this? Now the money makes sense. You're making three and a half,
Yeah.
$4 million a year. You probably say, "Hey, I'll take all the jabs, and you can say whatever you want. Let me get my payday." But I think it takes a toll on you. I
I mean,
think it takes a toll.
it does, but I don't think that he's going to want to say, you know what, I coached 1 year. I worked all this time to be a head coach. I coached 1 year. I failed, and that's it. I give up. I don't believe he's that type of person. Otherwise, all the stuff that he's been telling his players is complete BS. All of it that he's been telling the media, complete BS. And maybe it is. I just don't
Worst case
believe he's
scenario,
that
what
person.
if they only win one more game? Let's say they finish with 3-25 or
Right.
something like that. That's for me. If he gets the 6 or 7 wins, then you can look back and say, "Hey, there was some growth." Because I saw a fight against Wake Forest that
I
I
did
haven't seen.
too.
Um, I've seen some things from Mike James lately, and I'm like, okay. I've
I
seen
did
JJ
too.
Trainer get better. I've seen some moments. I've seen L. Ellis actually play better. So I'm seeing some growth. I wish I would have seen it 8, 9 games ago, but we're seeing some growth. But let's say they finish the season and they don't win another game.
Right.
I think it changes. I think we have to wait, play this out, because who knows? Well, let's say they win 3, 4, 5 more games. Yeah, he might buy himself another year or two, or they could negotiate a resignation and he takes a buyout early, and it works for both sides because he's frustrated, they're frustrated. I just think it's a lot of pressure. Every game, people are waiting to see, are they going to fail? And then what is he
Yeah.
going to say? And I think that makes for a lot of sleepless nights. And even Coach Pitino said, man, he said he was sleeping 4 hours a night. The pressure to win, the pressure to be great
Well,
is
I
someone
mean,
outworking me.
you
And
know
that was
what?
from a winning coach. That was from a winning coach. Imagine being on this side of it where you're ranked the third worst Division I program in the country. They set
Right.
a record. They had the most after 5 games. I think they had like 96 turnovers and 34 assists in 5 games. And they said in modern day basketball, a Division I team had never done that before. And I think when it's all said and done, where is he at mentally? Is he exhausted from dealing with the
I
players and dealing with
mean,
the media?
I get it. I get all of that, but and again, I'm not trying to sound cruel, but I don't feel sorry for them when they pay you $3 million. That's why they pay you
Mm-hmm.
$3 million to deal with
Yes.
all of that. So you can be mentally exhausted, you can be beat up by the media, but you're being paid handsomely to be able to do that.
And
And
Mac
your
was
other job is
exhausted at the
winning.
end a lot. And I knew some kids on that team, and Mac was exhausted at the end. He was tired. There was a point in time, Coach Max last year, and I think he resigned in the middle of the season. He coached the entire second half sitting down, and you could just see he was mentally fatigued.
Well, here's my thing. I mean, we could talk about Matt. I mean, that's a conversation for a different day, but I don't think that he was the right guy to be at Louisville anyway. I think he couldn't recruit to Louisville's level, and it's showing right now because those are pretty much the guys that he brought in, other than guys
Mm-hmm.
that left, which again, that's another KP thing. Should have been able to keep some of those people and
Well, we
that
look
got
back,
away.
right? We should we have not fought harder to keep Dre Davis? Dre Davis would have been really
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely.
Dre
I just
Dre
don't
Davis would have been
understand
a
that.
good guy for us.
They would have been a great guy for him. And I'm not saying you keep them all, but the Davis brothers, we could have kept them here. And I
Yeah.
think that changes how the trajectory of the season is. You know, they're not point guards, but they're guys that can dribble, get to the basket, shoot a little bit. Guys that we don't have. I mean, literally. I mean, just think about it. It's guys that we don't have. Another thing is, I just, I don't know. I'm not trying to be too harsh on Kenny Payne because, again, I grew up with him. I think he's
But
a
I think we should, though, for the simple fact that as a fan, let's ask the tough questions and hold him accountable and hold his feet to the fire like we would anybody else. So
we
I
do.
right. And I think a lot of fans are that when you address the issues with Louisville, the first thing they say is you're not a true fan. If you say
Oh my
Louisville's
God,
bad or
it's
you say
crazy.
this, People are now trying to bully you into not holding
Not
Louisville
being a
accountable.
fan because you're
You're
mad.
not a
Yeah, that's
fan because you're
crazy.
mad. I want to propose two questions for you. My first one is because this question gets proposed to me all the time.
Yeah.
If there was a chance to bring Jurich back and Patino back, would you, as a fan, would you say thumbs up or thumbs down, or do you think that ship has sailed and you wouldn't want him back? You would rather take your chances on either Kenny Payne or someone else. But if they said, you know what, Big B, it's your call. We can bring Jurich back. We can get Patino back, and you had that final say. Would you bring him back?
Well, here's the thing about Patino, and it's a good question, but it's a little complex. Is that how old is Patino? How long is he going to be here? Do you want him to coach to get the program back on track? Because I don't see Patino coaching another 10 years. I just don't see
You
that.
don't you don't you don't need him to because he would groom his son and his son would take it over. His son's doing a great job in New Mexico. And a lot of people don't realize at one point in time that was a thing. He wanted to leave U of L to his son.
He
So
did.
knowing some former players, he was trying to groom his son. And when he was at Minnesota, the thought was, okay, when I leave and when I retire, you'll have a big enough resume and enough experience where you can take it over and keep the legacy.
Yeah,
So
but he
maybe
didn't.
we only get a right, right.
I mean, he got fired in Minnesota. So I don't
Right. But
know.
now, right.
We can say that he's doing a great job in New Mexico, but New Mexico is not the same level, man. It's not. You don't recruit the same players. It's
Mhm.
not the same level as Louisville. And he got to the Big Ten level, and he didn't do well. So again, I'm
But
not
I also
saying
think
that.
that's a part of the Minnesota thing too. It's just hard to win in Minnesota.
Well, it is. It's definitely hard to win in Minnesota. So, but getting back to the question, I mean, it depends on what you want Patino to come and do. If you want him to be long term, then the answer is no. If you want him to come back and fix the program and give him 3 to 5 years to do that, and that's it, well, then absolutely you bring Patino back. You'd be a fool not to bring him back. The Jurich question is a different deal because Jurich helped the entire university. It wasn't just the Louisville basketball program. I think that's what people kind of get, misconstrued. Louisville took off as a university because the athletic program took off because that's what clearly brings in the most money. So the program and the university took off, and Tom Jurich was a huge part of all of that. So again, if you're wanting us to get back to where we were, which I think we are, you bring back Tom Jurich. If somebody asks me, well, yeah, I would want to bring him back. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like Josh Heward. I think he's fine. He hadn't been here long enough. I know he knocked it out of the park with Jeff Brom. I just think when you're looking at an athletic director, you got to look at more than just one program. Even though Louisville basketball is the athletic program for the most part, don't get me wrong, and people know the University of Louisville for basketball. You got to look at the overall picture when you're talking about that. And I don't know that we've got a bad athletic director at this point, uh, especially with the things that he's
I,
done.
I,
You
I
could say
like
the Kenny
him.
Payne hire is an issue, maybe,
I
but
like
give
him,
him
but
some time.
there's only one Tom Jurich. I mean, I think at one
Absolutely,
time he was the best AD in the
absolutely.
country.
And it
He was
wasn't
the
even
best
for
AD in the
question. It
country.
wasn't even
Yeah.
for a debate whether he was the top AD in the country. Wasn't even up for debate. So,
My other
I
question I want to
yeah,
propose
yeah. Go
is
ahead.
if they let KP go, Coach Payne gets let go, who would be your first realistic choice? Someone who would realistically take the job.
Man, I
Who
don't
would
know.
you want to see?
I
Could
literally
a
don't
Billy
know.
Donovan? Could a Billy Donovan leave the Bulls? Would
He's
you
not
like
gonna
to
do that.
see?
He's not gonna do that. I mean, if you're talking realistic, yeah,
Well,
he's not gonna do
his
that.
name has come up with Texas. A lot of people think that he
Yeah,
could
but
be
his name
look.
came up doesn't mean that he's gonna
Chicago's
take the
cold,
job.
man. Chicago's cold. NBA players have their egos. College basketball, we could pay them, 6, 7 million a year. That name wouldn't sound enticing to you.
I mean, enticing, yeah, but you mentioned realistic. He's not taking the Louisville job, man. He's Billy Donovan is not leaving the Chicago Bulls to come coach Louisville. Especially now, if the Bulls sucked, that would be a question, but they don't. you know, and it's the Chicago Bulls. He's not leaving that job. Plus, he's been in the NBA for how many years now? He's not leaving that job to come coach Louisville. Now,
Is there a name in your head that you're thinking of when I ask that question?
honestly, no. No, there is no name. I'm kind of we got KP, we got to figure this out. if and I'm
Well,
the type.
fans have to do that then because they say don't quit a job until you have another one lined up. Well, if everyone
Absolutely.
wants to fire KP and a lot of fans want him gone,
Yeah,
then
but
who
that's not
comes
being
in?
realistic. That's not being
Who
real. He's
comes
not
in?
getting fired this year. He's not getting fired this year. So I think if fans come to that reality and that realistic reality, he's not getting fired. I don't care if they don't win another game. I don't care if they don't score another point the rest of the season. He is not getting fired this year. And I think the quicker that fans come to that realization, they will be better because that isn't happening. Now, next year, we suck again. That's a different conversation. But he isn't getting fired this year. So for me, I don't even put those thoughts into my head because he's going to be here. And in
I
1 year
think
isn't
things have
enough
to go
time.
a certain way, or there's a chance he might not come back. Because
Nah, I
I
don't
think
think so.
you don't.
I don't think so, man.
Even
You,
if they
you
don't
can't.
fire him, could it be a coerced resignation? Could he
Nope.
step down? I
Nope.
don't know, man.
Nope. He's not getting pushed out the door. You mentioned it earlier. Too many alumni, too many former players would completely drop out of the program altogether and would never support it again if they did that to this man after 1 year. That's not going to happen. Just not going to happen. So, again, I don't care if they don't score another point the rest of the season. He is not going to get fired. He just is not this year. Now, next
No.
year is a different deal. And I want people to understand that. It's a different deal when you're dealing with year two, another summer, another transfer portal, another recruiting class. And if we're still bad and we're sitting here at this point in the season and we've won 5 games, then we can have that conversation, but not now. It's not realistic. And if it is realistic, then the athletic director needs to be on the chopping block as well, because if you're willing to get rid of this guy after 1 year, after you know the mess that we're in, and yeah, Kenny Payne didn't do a good job, but if you're willing to get rid of him, then you weren't sold on him to begin with, then you got to go.
That's a good point.
I
That's a
just,
good point.
if I mean, we got to start
The
looking
AD
at.
would need to have some grace there. You're correct. The AD
Yeah,
would need to have some
you got to
grace.
have
Yeah.
some grace period, man. You got to figure it out, because otherwise you're saying I just think about this in this aspect. Think about professional jobs. If a GM comes in and they hire a coach and they stink after a year, not talking about the Houston Texans because that's a dumpster fire of an organization, but I'm just talking about in general. When a general manager hires a coach and it doesn't work out, they usually get another hire. If that hire doesn't work out, they're out the door. Well, if you're telling me you get the job and you hire a guy and you have to fire, you just got the job and you have to fire him after 1 year, there's going to be alumni saying, well, what's this guy doing? I go, we don't need this guy either. So I think he's going to have to give him that opportunity. And not to mention, you know what? Let's just call it what it is. Kenny Payne deserves an opportunity to try and fix the program. Let's just say that. He deserves an
I can't
opportunity.
think of anyone who's gotten fired after 1 year that didn't do something
Not
illegal
in
or
college.
breach their contract. Yeah, you get at least 2 to 3 years, man.
Yeah, not
And
in college.
it would scare away the next hire because who would want the job knowing I could get
Well,
fired after 1 year?
not only that, how can you recruit? I mean, you bring a coach in for 1 year. Now, recruiting's different now with transfer portal, so everything's different because you're basically building your roster year to year. I go, but you still have ground root guys. I mean, you can't just go out and recruit knowing, hey, this guy might not even be here. That would be another thing that teams could recruit against, saying that, why would you go to Louisville? You don't even know who the coach is going to be. He may not even be there in 6 months. So just something to think about. You know, I like the direction that I saw him going against Wake Forest. It wasn't a win because, again, we have bad. I mean, the play that just kind of solidifies our bad basketball IQ. And again, I know we're picking on L. Ellis. I'm sorry, but he plays for the basketball team. He can deal with it. We're down 4. He drives. He misses a layup, a wide open layup, I might add. Fine, you missed the layup. You get back. Instead, he goes and falls on the back of a guy 55 feet from the basket and gives them 2 points. I'm like, if we don't have the worst basketball IQ players that I've ever seen, I don't know what is, because that is the epitome of what is wrong with the University of Louisville's basketball season right now.
I agree, and not to to pick on Ellis anymore, but that last play, you see Mike James on the wing, who's had this tremendous game, and we don't advance on the ball, and
Pass the
Ellis
ball.
gets the ball back tipped, and who knows, maybe Mike misses the shot, but we would like to know what would have happened if he had got the ball, if he
Oh,
had
you
just
mean
made the
the
right
game
throw.
before?
I'm talking. Yeah, was that the?
It wasn't a weight game. It was the game before that. Yes, when we lost by one against
Yes,
Syracuse.
yes,
Yes, pass the ball.
that,
Make
yes.
him. I remember Mike James on the wing. Either he's going to get a shot block or they're going to call a foul or he makes the basket. Give him the opportunity to make the play. He's ahead of you. Give him the opportunity. Instead, it just another turnover. It
And
was
I do
just
want to say
ridiculous.
this: the Wake Forest game for me is, it's weird to say this in a loss. It gave me some hope to be
Well, they
down
fought back.
18,
Yeah,
19, 20. Oh man, it's like retro cards, what you would see years ago when the cardiac cards, never out of it, and for a glimpse, just for a few minutes, you saw that fight, and I was like, okay, we're getting better. This is a sign
absolutely.
of growth. And as a fan, I was content. I was like, okay, guys, we're getting better.
Yeah,
Like I could work with this.
I appreciate it. Yep, absolutely. So appreciate the fight that they had. Well, thanks, man, for joining us again today. I know it's tough being a Cards fan right now, man. I get it. But we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there. I appreciate all you guys again tuning in to the show. Brian, again, tell everybody what you're doing right now, man.
Man, so I am a local basketball trainer, and I actually do that full time. So I work with kids from about the ages of 7 to even kids who go to college and come back. We do speed, agility, dribbling, shooting, how to attack, IQ stuff, help defense, the whole nine. So I don't coach a specific team, but it's a training business from groups, camps to even individual training, and I do that in Jeffersonville.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you again, man, for joining us today. We'll bring you back
I
on as many
appreciate you.
times as you want to come, man, and
I
we'll chop
appreciate
up
you, buddy.
anything. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good
Uh-huh.
one, buddy.